copacetic, everything is copacetic. Peace, internet. Welcome to another episode of Perfect Podcast for Never. I don't know if you noticed that I'm making an attempt to change the name. The name should no longer be Basic Concepts Perfect Podcast for Never. That's a mouthful. That's a mouthful. I think Perfect for Never is better. We'll try it. We'll see how it fits. We'll change it if we have to later. Housekeeping. Anchor.fm. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your computer or your phone. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your own podcast so it sounds great. They'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. I use Anchor. That's what I use to upload this. So, business done. Also, I wanted to follow up with the end of the last episode. I kind of went on a quasi-vegan tirade, and I don't want people to misunderstand. I mean, I don't think it was hard to misunderstand. I think it was pretty straightforward. I just wanted to clarify. I know some I did not get to. Let's say it's great. I don't want to say it's not the greatest reaction. I just got some reactions from people and some responses from people about what I was talking about. When I'm referring to meat replacements and vegan stuff, I'm usually just referring to this idea of, in society, we don't have many choices nowadays to avoid violence, or shall I say, I want to put it better, we're not faced with the violence that we're inevitably connected to most of the time. So basically what I mean is, when you wake up and you buy things and you spend your money and you pay attention to things and you go and you fund operations by like using their systems, i.e. in social media and or restaurants or clothing or whatever it is, when you subscribe to something, you're helping support that movement. So if at one point of this movement chain there's abuse of things or whatever, I'm just addressing that, and we don't have much control over many of the choices that we make. Like you have to use electricity, or you have to use water, or you have to use, you can't make your own water. Or there's just certain things you can't go solo independent with. And one of the things that you can go independent with and solo with is your food, your choices to eat. And I don't mean like, oh, grow your own. I'm just saying we at least have a minimum choice as people to decide whether or not we want to eat plants or animals, or include animals in our diet. We don't have to include animals in our diet in order for us to survive, and that's what I'm referring to. So if ever there was a meat replacement in a meal, I understand where that comes from if somebody feels like they had to get that, or I understand if like it's hard to create meals that don't have meat in it, especially if you're used to that and you grew up being raised on that. Out of all people, me, out of all people, I'm the number one believer that everything has life in it. So I don't believe that you're going to avoid all of the violence by consuming plant products, because you do take a life there as well. I'm just saying you don't have to take the life of animals, so you can choose. There's like the plant-based products are basically the alternative to the double of taking of life, because when you eat animal products, plant life was also taken then there too, so because you have the plants feed the animals and the animals feed you, so it's like the kind of double. So if you could just take out some of the middle part of the violence is what we're referring to. For health, sure. For safety of the living beings, more. And I don't mean like it's good until they die. I just mean like just not kill them. It's kind of like we don't have to do it. So and that's the one thing we have control over. We can choose whether or not we want to eat animal products. So and I choose not to. And I choose not to eat, and that just doesn't include just meat and not steak. It's just not that simple. It's just really anything that comes from an animal, it didn't come willingly. It didn't come willingly. And I think that, yes, eating plants is essentially the lesser of two evils. If the two evils are eating plants, animals, and eating plants, the plants thing is the lesser of two evils. If at one point in technology we're able to have some sort of food or some sort of sustenance, nutrient based program situation that we can consume without taking the life of animals and plants, then I would choose that as well. I'm not sitting here saying like, if you eat animals, you're an asshole only, and then everyone else is not an asshole. There are still assholes that do all types of things, and I'm sure if someone ate no plants or no animals and they found this super technology that I'm talking about in the future, I'm pretty sure it's possible that they could still be an asshole too. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to keep it peaceful, I don't even have my fucking keyboard hooked up. So it's super hot. I think I rushed to set up because I rushed. Okay, so I'm gonna set up my keyboard, not like that makes a huge difference, and we'll come back in a second. And I'll see if I can keep this episode pretty short, because the next one may be really long. Are we rolling? We're rolling for the fucking 100th time. This is like the third time I've started this, and I think we're good. We're losing daylight hours here. We only have so much time before Lisa gets back from her yoga class. I usually time these episodes when she's gone, or when you have to time it correctly. I don't want to put us through the relationship thing where, she needs something and I'm doing this, or vice versa. That doesn't happen, but I just much rather not put us through that, because this is just I'm just fucking talking. And I'm here with my homie Flavor Flav. Yeah, boy. But it is what it is. Look at that. We made it 2 episodes and ASAP Rocky is back home. Who'da thunk? And that's it with that. I know that there was like an international hostage investigator that sent a letter to Sweden and said, hey, if you don't put that dude in a hotel and his 2 friends in a hotel, then there's a good chance that you are going to mess up the bilateral trade of us and our country. So I guess ASAP is a fucking crown jewel. Who knows, man? That shit's exhausting. So also a moment of silence for those that have recently passed in Ohio and in El Paso and in Chicago. That being said, why didn't anybody shoot back in Texas? I mean, I'm not the genius. I don't run everything. I don't know everything. I mean, shit. I don't talk like I fucking run shit. But I know Texas is a big fucking gun-toting state. I didn't expect people to do shit, but it kind of makes you wonder what the fuck happened. Like, why nobody shot back? Why it took such a mess to clean. Well, I read this book. I started to read. I got through a good portion of it, but I had to stop. It is the 66 Laws of Illuminati, The Secrets of Success. Now, there's no writing on the back. There's just the ISBN code. And there's no... I mean, the fucking artwork is poorly done. And there's no author. It just says the House of Illuminati. And that's who the author is on Amazon or wherever you get this shit from. You know this shit's boo-boo, though, because Their contact is houseofilluminati@gmail.com. Word. I mean, it was published in 2013. It's got a pretty shitty like eye pyramid drawing, and just it's like the fucking artwork on this, like the text, it's just poorly printed. I mean, I am a print student, but just, you know, the text down here is just way too bunched up. You know, it's a damn shame. So most of the book, you know, in these 66 laws are just talking about protecting the light. I mean, we can go through some of the laws. They're very simple. You know, it's like let your light shine, show love, make plans, be on time, respect others, pay your debts, talking about compromise, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, it's pretty, you can get through it pretty quickly. And then it has, after the 66 laws, it has... I mean, some of the laws are pretty cool. It's a pretty nice, like, it's like a self-help book, right? But then it says a letter to the youth of this present age. Now, this supposedly was written in 2013. And you can tell. But the writing is just like... I mean, let me see. Yo, it was like the fifth paragraph in it immediately starts talking about Jay-Z. 4 paragraphs in. You know, children, blah, blah, blah. The enlightened house of Illuminati. Commit yourselves to the path. You know, we're breaking our silence. This letter's about how to be successful now. Secrets of the Illuminati. House of Illuminati wants the youth to have the opportunity to be successful. But before we can share with you the secrets, you must share our lamentations and our pain with the youth of the present generation. Sounds like my dad. Sounds like my dad. Before I share with you the secrets, let me share with you why I'm upset with the youth. It's not bad to be my dad. I mean, I'm just saying. They want to share their pain. Never heard the Illuminati wanting to do that. But anyways, on one hand, it seems the youth in the present age lost their sense of purpose, their divine destiny, sense of self, a lot light within. On the other hand, we're pleased with the possibility and what we call the Arab awakening, blah, 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 whoop-de-whoop. This is where it starts to get fishy. We are pleased with the collective force and spirit of the youth which rallied together to elect President Obama, the 44th president of the United States of America. What? Okay, Illuminati. But before we praise the youth for things which we have found pleasing, like the kids did that, allow us a few pages to speak on things which we found much concern. And then you're like, all right, cool. Well, let's see what your first concern is. Recently, the council read a note believed to be from American rap artist Jay-Z posted on the Facebook social media website denouncing any affiliation with the House of Illuminati. While this was quite insignificant to us, it was indicative of a growing and larger problem which we have turned our attention. Immediately, we recognized the need to address the youth of the present age. And then they go on to talk about how basically everyone thinks that they're like Satan-worshipping child killers, and they think that basically they're like everybody's in the Illuminati because Illuminati's about being a human, and human is normal, and if you're being nice and a good person, you're Illuminati, and if you're successful because you're using these things, then yes, you technically are Illuminati. But basically they're being like, well, Jay-Z, you didn't have to say you weren't an official member, like obviously you're not. Like, it's just goofy. It's like, why is this even the first? Who gives a fuck? At first glance, we were slightly tickled, but upon insightful reading of the note from Jay-Z, the council of the most enlightened ones became saddened as we reviewed its contents. In agreement with some of Mr. Carter's, in parentheses, Jay-Z's statements, we will not critique his letter, but we will offer a few lines of commentary before moving on to the important part of this appeal. We ask, how can one who has enjoyed the fruits of success adhering to the laws of the Illuminati denounce its participation? Right? Like, what are y'all talking about? One does not have to be an official member of the House of Illuminati to be Illuminati. Okay. You only need to follow the path of light, and your light will automatically join the energetic force of the Illuminati. Yet, for the record, Jay-Z, Kanye West, Beyonce, and no other American hip-hop artists are official members of the House of Illuminati at this time. Who cares? Obviously, fucking young black kids. I mean, if in 2013, if I read this, maybe I would have been like, whoa. You know, they talk about all this, like, who's a member, who's not, what it means to be Illuminati, talking about honor your parents. It's see, they basically saying there is a member of the Illuminati. He's a tap dancer, and they're like, he uses power of light and intellect to lend a voice to the evil of racism and discrimination in the American way of life. In a measure of his character, we are pleased to see the artists Common and Queen Latifah continuing along this path. We applaud Common as he speaks out for the cause of peace. We applaud Latifah for being a powerful figure of positivity. That's so random. They're like, hey, Jay-Z, calm down. You don't have to say you're not Illuminati, even though you kind of are, because we all are. Also, shouts to Common and Queen Latifah. At this point, I should have closed the book. But you know, I'm doing my fucking research. I do it so you don't have to. I do it so you can look and be like, yeah, of course it's fake, man. Of course they're not gonna put a book. So you can be like, look what he wastes his time on. And you can watch me waste my time. And then they're like trying to basically shake this thought process of like, if I'm not successful because I wouldn't sell my soul to the Illuminati. They're like, oh, that's bullshit. They literally say that, for lack of better words, is bullshit. They're basically saying don't blame, the Illuminati for your failure, whoop-de-whoop. And then it talks about African American youth. It's like the level of youth violence in the world today is at an unprecedented and shameful high. Still addressing the American youth, and particularly the African American youth of Jay-Z's heritage, since Jay-Z felt it necessary to highlight your plight, Illuminati places a high burden of responsibility on you because you live in a land where citizenry has the freedom to think, hold ideas, and bring them to fruition. Blah, 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 blah. You have all these privileges, like all these other countries. Why do you find it necessary to kill each other, glorify violence, make music about the use of drugs, call your young women hoes and bitches? Huh? Why does Illuminati care that black people are calling women hoes and bitches in rap songs? Like, that's, if anything, that's the Illuminati's fault. Or the Illuminati's like doing. But we won't get into that. Talking about colonial oppressors. Oh my god, here's the best part. The music says nigga this and nigga that and bitch this and bitch that every other word. You argue that by doing so you have empowered the word to powerlessness. Just so you know, that doesn't make sense. White people would be crucified if they referred to a black person as nigga in this day and age, but the African American expects that this is known worldwide, that no one else can use the term to describe them. You're sadly mistaken. See, like, that's so, like, why is the Illuminati getting into the weight of the N-word? Like, who, like, what? I mean, granted, they have a little bit of a point when whoever wrote this, by saying, like, if you're saying the word, it doesn't necessarily like take the power away from it, but the amount of gun violence in the African American community is unacceptable. The amount of gun violence in any community is unacceptable. That's really the case. Where's the voice of Jay-Z on this matter? Where is the statement from the youth, from Mr. Carter on this issue? Why the fuck? If you wish to speak about the Holy Grail, use your voice and your light to address these matters. Use your music to preach love and end the youth violence. They're too fucking caught up, and they're like, okay. And then here's where it starts to lose fucking steam. It's like, the Council of the Enlightened Ones can't hear you, Mr. Carter, so we break our silence so we can do it for you. And then they say, here's now listen to this. Consider this: in the entire nation of Japan, there were only 26 cases of violence involving a handgun, whereas there were over 400 gun-related murders in Chicago, an urban city in America alone. That sentence makes no sense. I'm going to read it again. Consider this: in the entire nation of Japan, there were only 26 cases of violence involving a handgun, whereas there were over 400 gun-related murders in Chicago, an urban city in America alone. What, in that year? In a month? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Who the fuck wrote this? There is a stark contrast between these two societies. Yeah, no shit. There's no reason for youth to kill one another. It has to stop. The violence has to stop. Your brothers and sisters, children of the light. Yeah, that's all true. But this sounds like my dad. This sounds like a black, like father. It sounds like somebody that's trying to help the youth. Like, they're like writing this book to, like, I mean, I got the book, but who cares who wears red? Who cares who wears red, blue, purple, or gold? What does the color of the dye in the fabric have to do with the value of light within a person? I don't fucking ask the Nazis. It's not a life worth more than the cotton and rubber spit from. See, that shit, it just gets too much like, come on, kids. Like, this is supposed to, like, wake some, like, gang members up or people who are, like, like, murderers. Like, if you're a murderer, you're a murderer. If you're a murderer because of necessity, like, because you have to rob somebody, that's a little bit different. But, I mean, if you're reading this book to try to get out of that situation, hopefully this helps. I'm trying to find the part where I was just like, that's it. I kept reading. They did eventually say... Then they started talking about Egypt and, like, what does Egypt have to do with Chicago? They're, like, talking about Egyptian doctors and kings and all this shit that just is like, yeah. Then they say, yes, I understand slavery sucks, but the good news is if everybody stopped killing each other, it would all just reverse. Oh, they also called the surahs in the Quran sutras, which I thought was very interesting because in Arabic people are like surah. So when you say surah in Arabic, if you say sutra in, like, it's like a cousin word. I thought that was interesting. So I've memorized some sutras in the Quran. Very cool. Yo, by the way, one of my homies said this is a fucking ASMR podcast. I'm starting to tag my shit ASMR. I just don't raise my voice in this house. Keep it low vibes, low key vibes. Maybe I read White Folk and I kept reading a little more. They also mentioned Get Rich or Die Trying. So it just seems very topical. And I'm just like, I'm trying to figure out who the voice is. This doesn't feel like the voice of a fucking people that are, like, influencing the world. This sounds like people that are caring about the wrong things. If you want to be a rapper, learn the proper use of the language. If you want to be an artist, like, who the fuck? Like, what the fuck are you even talking about if you want to be a rapper? Oh, here we go. I knew I'd see it somewhere. They started talking about racism. They started talking about we're all the same. Racism is evil because those who have the power to be oppressive, treated unfairly. The minds of a minority group become so battered that it destroys their thinking to the point that they believe more so in what they can't do and what they can do. So it becomes impossible for them to believe that Jay-Z could become successful in his own hard work and merit. So they're basically saying that the system basically makes it so that people believe that they can't make it unless they go to use the Illuminati or some shit because of their skin color, which is true. But of course, Illuminati saying me thinking that is giving into the system. Then it says, the system becomes the enemy and the belief is formed that somehow the system will work against them just because of their skin color. White folk around the world have to realize the part they have played in creating these social evils. American whites and British Anglos and even the Germans must accept their role in the way radicalized societies are. I stopped, man. I can't with this shit. I'm gonna continue reading another time, but it was just too much. Like, yo, it just sounded like my dad. Not to say that that's a bad thing. It sounded like they're concerned with a very specific aspect of how things are rolling, and it didn't at any point sound like it was like, be a good person, be successful being a good person. It seems like a catcher, like a funnel catcher for anybody who's interested in Illuminati, who would probably do some dumb shit to sell their soul out to Illuminati. Some young kid in this book is trying to catch them and be like, oh, just be good. And hopefully, if they're thinking, if the kid's that gullible to believe in the Illuminati, then the kid's also that gullible to believe that putting down guns is going to end the violence or some shit. I don't know. You know, living in Puerto Rico and watching the Ricky Renuncia thing happen has been interesting, because people are actually uncomfortable. People actually want the thing to change, and they went up and did it. And I'm not saying that's better or worse than anybody. I just think things are too spread out in the United States on the mainland for everyone to be on the same page about getting something done. So nothing's truly going to make everyone feel uncomfortable. Like, even Area 51, you know, everyone isn't uncomfortable enough by the Area 51 stuff to actually storm it, you know. Everyone isn't uncomfortable enough with the Flint Water, Michigan situation for everyone to go and stand outside these companies' doors. Like, it's at a level, but it's not everyone. It's not enough people. And I don't think it's going to be enough people. And that's just what it is, man. I don't think that's like the worst thing ever. It just is what it is. I'm more interested in stopping, you know, privileged white youth from replacing their C's with B's when they talk, like Boolin and Bushwick. I think we need to stop affiliating with cultures that are actually hurting people, or we need to stop joking and saying that we're part of cultures that actually hurt people. You know, like, gang shit ain't, you know, you don't know gang shit. You don't know nothing about gang shit. You just don't. And I don't care what boy you got, who's got a boy. If you ain't in the gang, you don't know nothing about no gang shit. And unless you or any of your family members have directly been affected by gang shit, you don't know nothing about no gang shit. Gang shit ain't got nothing to do with no fucking EDM song. Gang shit ain't got nothing to do with no fucking hipster party or hashtag. Gang shit's real, and gang shit get you killed. Like, your death. But be that as it may, I think I may keep this one hella short. I just wanted to let you know that you ain't missing much with the 66 Laws of Illuminati book by the House of Illuminati. It was an interesting read. I'll continue, maybe, but it has nothing to do with like, oh, if it doesn't say what you want it to say, then you stop. It's just really like, I gave it a try. You always give something a try, especially when it's something that you feel like is against you. Most people are scared of Illuminati because Illuminati seems to be controlling everyone, but yo, as the facts have it, they're really against the establishment of the Catholic Church. And it starts to get tricky when you start looking into like it that way, because, you know, thinking about the Catholic Church influence and all that stuff, things really, they get weird as you get older. Sometimes they shift. Like, I used to be like really adamantly anti Satan and the devil because of my religion, and I carried that over with me like into my adult life heavy, and that's been the biggest piece of like my existence, is I was just not affiliated with the devil at all, even to the point where when you hear about like funny Illuminati stories about sacrificing kids or sacrificing goats and shit like that, you think about the stories in Islam of like those same things happening where you sacrifice a goat, or there's a story of a prophet having to sacrifice the ram and instead of his kid Abraham, and there's stories, and then that's part of the religion too. You have to like sacrifice it, and And I always thought that was like, as I got older, I thought that was kind of weird that I never made the connection of cutting the ram's head off. Because then also there's this big thing of the devil makes that which is bad seem good and good which is seem bad. So it was like, then it gets confusing, you know? I recently saw somebody say he was working for this big company doing some really evil stuff. And he was like kind of on the fence about what he was doing. So he ran into two politicians back to back. And the first person said to him, hey man, fuck you, you know, you're doing the devil's work, this is, you know, this is Satan's work, and you're gonna burn in hell for this, and blah blah blah. And then he stormed away, and he's like, oh man. And then he ran into the next politician, and the politician looked at him and said, hey boy, you're doing God's work, you know that? So that kind of shit, that kind of shit makes my skin crawl, man. I would hate to be like tricked into be fucking worshiping the devil, because I sure as fuck, not my bag, not my bag. But that's all it really is to it. I'm concluded that even if we agree, the United States ain't really on the same page. We're not that close together. We can't really relate, so we won't really make a move, you know, like that. We won't make no violent moves like that. Like, and I don't say violence has to happen. I'm just saying, like, you know, it's like equal exchange, man. The change happens after enough happens. And I don't think violence has to happen, but man, violence is happening regardless in attempts to make certain changes happen. And I don't know where those are being stemmed from or rooted from, but again, just keep your eyes open. If you're on the mainland, fucking keep your eyes open, keep your head up, you know, stay safe. I can't tell you where anything's gonna come from, but I fucking left the mainland because that shit's starting to get too random. And I don't like crowded situations anyway, so moving to something that's less crowded, it seems to even get you more fucking higher chance. Like El Paso, out of all places. El Paso is such a small city. I mean, granted, it's close to Mexico, but still fun, son. Brutal shit, man. And fuck trying to find somebody to blame. That shit's just crazy. You can't blame anybody. The whole fucking system's shot, man. It needs a reboot. It needs to be redone, redistributed, reevaluated. Like, this shit needs a complete, utter reboot, because this stuff is gonna keep happening until like war breaks out, man. I just wonder where all those like brave Texans were that stand up for their gun rights. Did nobody else have a gun on premise? Again, I'm not in that situation, but oof. Between El Paso, the Ohio situation where that dude killed his sister, he didn't only kill his sister, he shot up a club. 40 was it 40 shots in 30 seconds? Something like that. 40 shots in 30 seconds. Killed 9 people, you know, injured 20. Shit like that. It's just too much carnage. And Chicago, I mean, that's always violent. This was a really heavy episode, and I'm not sorry. I'm going to have a guest come on, I think the next one, if not the next one, the one after that, but I have a special guest, kind of lighten things up, and I think that's going to be a 2-hour special, so that'll be cool. But you know, just to make up for that, I think we'll call this one really early, and just, you know, make sure you keep your head cool out there and stay safe, and fucking, like, you know, there's nothing I can tell you that is gonna make you feel any better about what's going on, man. There's a war going on outside for the vibrations, and it's positive vibes against negative vibes, and it's about balance. Like, the world is enough, as much as there is good, there's evil, as much as there is good, there's bad, and it's just like you just gotta deal with that fact. That's just what it is, and you have to take a stand somewhere at some point. You could stay quiet and stay on the sidelines, but you got to stand up for something. And you know, you can start small, start where your actions actually make a difference, you know, and then go from there. But I love you. And let me know my podcast name should be. I think I'm going to call it The Perfect Podcast for Never. I mean, keep that name, but get rid of the basic concepts, you know? Maybe we'll try this episode as the first episode of the perfect podcast for never. PP for N, perfect podcast for never. Maybe it has a ring. We'll see what happens. Let me check. Is there any notes? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening in the next episode, so I think this one we'll call it a day.